Well, welcome. Tonight we're going to talk to somebody who makes our show fun. Anytime you spend a lot of time talking about our kids and their achievements, it's a fun thing. It's a good thing for Milford. And we'll talk about not only how they're playing, but what's happening to get them into college and scholarships and other aspects of being a student athlete. I've never forgotten when you said you have student athletes.
10 years ago, we talked about that. That was my big...
So let's start, if somebody doesn't know you, with an introduction.
Sure. Peter Boucher, very proud athletic director for Milford High School and Stacy Middle School, and I think this is my 10th year. Yeah, and my going joke is, I didn't grow up here, but I was born at Milford Hospital. It took me about 40 years to come back home, and I appreciate the vast majority of the community that's adopted me and helped me feel at home. So I love working here. It's awesome.
Has it been 10 years since we
You
had
believe
you on
that?
the show?
Yeah. We're on our 10th year. It's crazy.
You had a lasting impact, because I'll never forget when you said, I don't have athletes, I have student
I remember saying it
athletes.
to you too, and I say that to everybody, and now people don't even say student athletes, right? You got to do your day job to be able to do your afternoon job. That's what we tell the kids.
Well, I think it's important because what's the average of kids that get into college sports? 3%?
3 to 5, yeah, and 5 is high. Most years it's 3.5%. We had a couple NCAA signings today. We talked about that, and the kids. There was a lot of kids able to come down and watch today, and it was fun. And I said, so we have 112 seniors this year. Talk to me. I said, do some math. How many should make it? They're like, we're talking like 9, 10 kids depending on. Right. I go, no, we have like 15 to 17 right now.
But that's not normal.
No, it's not.
Because I was going to say, a school the size of Milford, I should be able to say, here are the 5 kids.
Yes.
Count them all on
Correct.
one hand.
Yep. You're right. You're 100% correct. It's just, and what I say to the kids is this town gets it. And it's a true sports town. I've said that since probably a week into my arrival. I'm like, I worked in 2 other schools, 30 years, right? 2 other high schools in the Hockomock League. And, I've always said since arriving and meeting all of the Milfordians and people everybody supports, and it's like, this is a true sports town. People get it. Even right now in 2023, this is a sports town. People support kids.
From your perspective, it's a sports town. From my perspective, it's a kids' town.
Yes. Yep. No.
Sports is just there.
Yes. Yeah. And that's my specialty. But I also say this, you'll catch me, and I say it on your show a lot, and I say it anytime I'm speaking in public, is Milford takes care of its kids ages 1 to 100. They take care of everybody. They really, I've never seen anything like it. It's really cool.
Well,
It's
that's
special.
the hardest thing sometimes, to explain to people that, yes, the schools are critical.
Mm-hmm.
And we do want to fund them. We never have enough money to fund what we'd like, but we always have
This
enough
town
money
does a really good job. It
to
does.
fund what we have to.
Yes.
But you got the balance that the people who built Milford are now on Social Security.
Yes.
And when
You got to take care of them too, right?
well,
Because
when you figure that they're living on $1,500, $1,800
Yeah.
a month,
that's a lot. It's hard. It's difficult. That's not a lot. It's hard to do, is what I'm trying
that's
to
a
say.
lot for them to get by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I looked at the apartment situation here, and it's $1,300 for an apartment to rent.
It's ridiculous.
So if you got $1,800 to start, and $1,300 goes out the door,
Yeah.
no matter which way you cut it, Portuguese math says there's not a lot left.
Yeah. Good call. There's not a lot there for food, transportation, and
Clothes,
everything else. Yeah. It's nice to stay warm.
But tell me, this is exciting. So when you say you have signings,
Mhm.
what does that mean?
That's a real. Thank you for. I can clarify for everybody. So, what's evolved in the 21st century is when. So I don't want to say I graduated in '89, right? Went to Bridgewater State. Had a couple of scholarships.
But I can say you're a baby because I graduated in '74.
Yeah, right. So we're still cut from the same cloth. Our generations are tougher, I think, than a lot of people. But so back then there wasn't a big deal for Division III, and I don't know why. Because I had to try out, I had to make the team. Was the only freshman that year to make the cross country team at Bridgewater. They were very good. Again, not talk. But so nowadays it's gotten really difficult to make a D3 team. Right, we have a bunch of kids at Bridgewater. We have some kids at Worcester. We have a lot of kids at Framingham. We put a couple kids at Westfield, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to go and watch them play now and again. But I still am in contact. We're in contact with a lot of the coaches, and everybody has just stepped up their game. You can see it, right? Every 10 years, there's an evolution. People are faster, they're stronger, mentally, physically. And, the way I look at it is Division III right now, everybody's a league all-star from high school. That's really what it is. Everybody's an all-star. I thought to myself, I can still remember getting there, trying out, and thinking, I know everything. I'm a really good
Now,
runner.
Pete, for the uneducated,
Sure.
people like me who never really understood,
Yeah.
Division I, Division II, Division III. I mean, I think of a little school like Penn State being Division I,
Yes.
yet a school like Holy Cross calls itself Division I. Totally confusing. Penn State,
Very
$60
different.
million a year program.
Yep.
Holy Cross, $60 a year program.
Yeah, no, and it's a good point. It really is the focus of the institution and how they want to compete. Division I and Division II can give scholarships, and they, according to Title IX, select whatever amount of scholarships that they are going to afford their student athletes and what sports they want to do that in. But it's got to be equal now, gender based.
Men and women, the numbers have to match.
They have to be really, really close, and usually it's 50-50 or it's really in the
well, but
women's
it's
favor.
close. It
Yes,
doesn't-
ridiculous, and it should be. I agree with that. It should be. Then there's like football. You have, and a lot of sports too. They just don't spell it out as specifically as football does. There's Division I, like the Penn States, right? The Miamis, BCs, and whatnot. And then there's 1AA. Those are the they don't necessarily play the ones. Like, for example, we just signed Tyler Potter today. He's going to play at Central Connecticut State. It's 1AA, but guess what? It's still Division I. That he's a great kid, strong kid. He's going to be going up against some of the best players in the country in 1AA. UMass Amherst 1AA, right? It's still Holy Cross still ridiculously competitive. It's the next level.
And it's amazing because a school like Penn State, football pays for the whole athletic program.
Everything. Yep, with their TV contracts and their promotionals and whatnot. You're 100% correct. Most Division I, 1AA, and a lot of D2, your football team pays for everything. And sometimes your basketball will supplement, but football is
Yeah, but
the
it
cash
doesn't
cow.
compare. I mean, we go up once a year to Penn State, where my darling bride went to school. It's 107,000 of her closest friends.
Yes, yeah, yep. Upper close.
It's just,
Everybody's in blue and white. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
and it's amazing how they take it because I never understood, like they have the whiteout.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it always, what's so big about that? Then I
We
thought
do
about
that
it.
too. We do something white out, red out.
When you have 100,000 people,
it's
and the bulk of them are in white,
intimidating.
and your uniform is dark blue, when the quarterback's looking downfield,
Yes, yeah.
if I'm the visitor trying to find my white shirted receiver
Yep.
against the white, it's a
not
lot
working well.
different than
Yeah.
looking for the blue Penn State guy.
Yes. It's like batter's eye in baseball, right? You don't want anything to get in the way, and it does, And plus, it's intimidating to have that many people in one color screaming and cheering for one team and maybe encouraging you not to do so well. The
But it's
opposing team.
amazing because, like, this year last fall, we splurged for a parking place close to where we were sitting. $460 to use
One game?
one game,
Four-
one
said
piece
400.
of dirt.
400. Not 60?
No.
I'm
Almost
flabbergasted.
$500
Flabbergasted.
for a parking space.
Patriots is ridiculous, and it's a quarter of that.
It's just
That's unbelievable. I've never heard of that. It's just me
well,
not
it costs
knowing.
us $3,000 to
Wow.
go to a game.
Oh my gosh.
Because you start with, they've got the $65 seats.
Yeah.
But you got to be a booster
To have
and
those.
donate $5 or $10,000 a year.
Wow.
So we buy them from friends,
Yeah.
but they're $350 a piece. So you got
It's
$1,200.
criminal. That's criminal.
Oh, it gets worse.
I'm
The
telling you,
first
it's
time we
criminal.
went, we stayed at a Best Western, and it was nice. $99 worth every penny. That was Thursday night. Oh, you want to stay Friday?
Oh, football
Friday
night.
and Saturday is game night.
Yep.
$9.99.
Oh my gosh. And they get it.
Place is booked.
They get it. Oh my gosh.
I mean, right now we
Obscene.
stay just outside of Penn State at an inn, and I pay 2 years in advance. I have to make my reservation
Oh my gosh.
and pay the money.
It's that crazy. I didn't know that.
Otherwise, you're not getting in.
Wow.
So, you sit there and say, my God, the amount of money that goes into that.
Mhm.
And it's-
The entire community, right? And it's a focal point, and that's America, right? That's sports towns, that's sports cities, and we
But
got
I
a lot of
wonder,
kids going to
Pete,
those places.
if we shouldn't just declare those big time programs semi-pro. Because they certainly
Yeah, if we're being honest, right?
make enough money. I mean, the NCAA, I would imagine, does not want to declare it semi-pro because
No.
then you'd have to pay the athletes.
You lose the amateur status, and it becomes a very big monster for the NCAA. It
Well, when
does.
you start seeing, like, my wife was telling me that Penn State sometimes could get millions of dollars if they make a bowl.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
One game.
One game. And the athletic program does receive a ridiculous amount of money for most bowl games. Pays for everything, and then you've got money for the next couple of years. It's
And you
crazy.
could argue that you wouldn't be able to fund a lot of the other programs
True.
if you didn't have it. But still,
Still seems lopsided, right? Seems a little out of whack. But we're sports fans, and we buy in multiple ways, probably.
I pay every year.
Yeah. Yep.
But now, okay, there's a kid from Milford. You say he signed.
Yes. NLI. Yep. National Letter of Intent. Yep.
What does that mean to?
So that's a good point. So that means that the college coaches and our football coach in particular, Dale Olson, is fantastic. The best I've ever seen with recruiting, opening doors for kids, and he actually helps out with other. He helps me a great deal working with the other programs. He doesn't just work with football. He's working with other sports and whatnots because he's just really good at it. He's got a great acumen. So what that means is, college coaches have either seen our kids or we've marketed our kids to those college programs where they might want to go. And the coaches there have watched. Coaches don't fly and go anywhere. They don't drive anywhere. They watch everything on video for the most part. Unless they're really, really close and they want to swing by and make a connection. But so they're watching video. They see something they like and they start to work with our coaches and our players and their families. And if they really like you, then they're going to say, hey, listen, here's a 50% scholarship. Maybe a merit academic situation. Here's 50% athletic, and then the more we can get for the kids is really what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that they.
But whatever they call it, I mean, a little school like Holy Cross is $70,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you get a scholarship,
Yep.
that's $280,000.
It's a lot of money. And even if they give you a partial, like a half or a third, or sometimes they'll offer you books and they offer you like meal plans and what. It's gotten very complicated, but you want to try and get. If you get a really good player, you're going to get a really good deal. We have kids that go for like half, but what that does for them is they get to go to a college that maybe they might not have financially, but maybe the 35 they would have spent at this college, now they're only going to spend
They're
35.
leveraging it to 70 at that college.
Yeah, exactly, because half of that's getting paid or
See,
two-thirds is getting
It
paid.
amazes me because when I went to school, it was 74.
Mhm.
Holy Cross was, it was less. When I graduated, it was 6,200.
Unbelievable.
And I was amazed. I mean, my mom worked at Draper's, really making money at $11,000 a year.
Yeah.
My
Yep.
dad worked
Think
at
about
General
that now.
Motors at 18. The fact that they could come up with $6,000 a year,
Insane.
just
It's a lot.
insane.
And we got to give our parents and our guardians and all the adults, and they bend over backwards for their kids. They do. I'm just starting to look down that barrel right now. I got a junior and a freshman, and it's, oof, it's coming. And you want to help your kids as much as you can because you don't want them to graduate
with
owing a mortgage,
$100,000.
right? They already own a house, but they can't live in it. It's a mortgage. I have a nephew who pays $1,000 a month for 30 years.
See, when we graduated, most of us, I mean, there were the kids who were from well-off families, but most of us had $32.80 in their pocket.
Yep. Right.
But it was my $32.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. You worked
It
hard
wasn't
for it.
32. Oh, but by the way, you owe $100,000.
Yeah. Yep.
Because you sit there and say, how the heck, even if you got a good job, you need a car, you need a
Able to get
place to
around.
live,
Yeah. Yep.
and even renting. I mean, an apartment in Milford now is $1,300,
Yeah.
$1,400.
Yep. Or if you I lived off campus. I didn't want to live in the dorms. It just wasn't for me. I didn't like all the ants living in one place. I just didn't work for me. And I lived off campus once I made friends with the cross country guys and whatnot. We moved into this place, whatever. You're still saving money, but it's still money. You still got to pay money to eat. You got to pay money to live. You got to drive a car. No, it's expensive. It's hard. It's challenging.
So now we got 15 kids from Milford, which sounds like 5 times the normal average.
Yep.
They signed for a school. What is that?
So, and that's a good point. So, I'd love to go so D1 and D2. Most of those are scholarship situations. D3 is not. D3 has become so competitive that
But you're playing for the love of the game.
You are, and but it's also gotten so competitive that you really can't walk on a D3 team anymore.
Really?
You cannot. You can get it's very rare. You have to earn a spot. You have to be told in advance. Hey, we want you for Bridgewater State cross country. We want you for Westfield State football. You have a spot. You get to try out, which means you're probably going to make the team, but it's very difficult to get that spot. It's not. It's evolved.
Is that why you see people with cameras making films of kids playing
Yes.
football? And
Yep. They're trying to carve up film and.
So you're doing a marketing campaign.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Because no longer, it used to be, for D3, I'm talking probably 20, 25, 30, again, in my time frame, you went out for the team and most people made it. Like for pick any team you want. But it is now, most of the D3 teams can compete with the D2 teams. They can hang with them for the most part. Not all, but that's how competitive
But
it's got.
what makes the difference then
especially in New
between
England.
a D2, D3, I understand. One is scholarship.
Yes.
One is not.
Right.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
But the difference between a D1 and a D2.
That's a good point. That's the focus of the institution. They've decided we want to be big time, or we just want to be a scholarship school and be as good as we can be. That's really what it comes down to. D1 is we're going for the blue chippers. We're going to spend all kinds of money. We're making all kinds of money. Where D2 is typically a little bit more level funded. Either the university or the college has to put money in. They don't make a lot of money off TV contracts or sponsorships or anything like that. So it's a little less of a focus. That's really what it comes down to. And the players usually D1 are a little stronger and faster. D1 to D2, D1 to D3. There's a small gap. When you get to D2 and D3, it's close. There's still a gap between 2 and 3.
They're getting 50 to 60, 70,000 a year.
Yep.
Relief if they play D1 or D2.
Yes. Yeah, there's a strong encouragement and allure to get into D1 or D2.
Well, it's got to be something because if you're at a high academic school, I mean, I had to work hard just to keep my head above water and make it.
I'm with you.
But I didn't have a 40-hour-a-week job being football player, hockey player.
Exactly. That, and people, I don't, and this is one of the things we talk about to our college athletes. It's, so I went to a D3 school. We practiced 7 days a week, and and 2 or 3 of those days we were double sessions. We would get up before 8 o'clock classes, and you had to be in the weight room or in the pool. You're talking 9, 10, 11 practices a week just to compete at the D3 level.
See, I was amazed
crazy.
when I looked, and the Holy Cross hockey team had the highest GPA cumulative than any other team. And it dawned on me, because you can't make the team unless you played 1 or 2 years of juniors.
Yes.
So getting out of high school and being on your own and doing the silly things that no father wants to know you do.
Right. Yes,
but they got to get it out of their system like everybody.
Yep.
So by the time they hit freshman year, they've already had 2 years on their own, and they're ready to focus.
Yes. And that's not I've always said that. This is my own personal opinion. This is not Pete Boucher, the AD, or the former principal, or this is me as just a guy and a dad and somebody who went to college and tried to grab a couple of degrees. I'm not so sure it's a great idea to tell 18-year-olds they got to go to college and spend all this money, and you need to know what you want to do for the rest of your life, and you got to drop $250,000 to do it now. 18, 19, 20, 21. I know people that are 30, 35, 40, 45 who don't really know what they want to do, or maybe went into something that they didn't.
66, I still don't want to.
I
don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
I was really lucky. I knew I wanted to teach. I knew I wanted to work with kids because a couple people saved my life, and I just wanted to give back. That's all I wanted. I wanted to coach and teach, and then move up the ladder and try to
I was
impact
convinced
people.
I wanted to be a bench chemist.
Okay.
Absolutely want to be on the bench. And I got an internship junior year of college at Waters. And after 6 months,
Wasn't for you,
I
right?
said, I don't want to do this.
Yes, for the rest of your life. Yeah.
I'm going to be doing this. And, you know, you need bench chemists, but that's not me.
No, it's really. I think out of all my buddies in college, everybody except me changed their major. Everybody, and I was on the spring track team. You're talking 60, 70 guys at that level. Everybody changed their major.
I always
Almost all of them.
kept the chemistry major because I like chemistry. But I went into the business side because that seemed a lot more fun.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, it's just
So
it's asking a lot.
I want to go to college, and it'd be nice to get a scholarship. Somehow, your football coach markets you, gets somebody's attention, and then you sign. Does that mean I'm going there, or
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a duo track situation. You know, and I know everybody knows this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You don't just get the scholarship. You have to get in academically. You have to get in academically. That's critical. You have to apply, and then and they're separate. They really are separate. They don't really cross-pollinate. They do at some schools. I wouldn't be.
not at all schools? I
Yes.
mean, I was absolutely appalled when I heard our Secretary of Education many years ago complain that the Florida schools that had basketball teams should have a goal of graduating at least a third of their athletes.
Not good. How about all? How about all?
The goal is a third?
Yeah. How about 100%? I agree with you. That's where the student athlete comes in. Do your day job really well, and then do your afternoon job
See,
really well.
I'd be happier if you said, you've earned a scholarship, but you don't have to take it now. Focus on your sport.
Yep.
4 years from now, come back.
How great would that be? That's a great idea. I've never heard of that. No one's ever mentioned that to me.
Because then you can focus. Like I said, I did everything I could just to
Yeah.
get B's and an A here and there. You know,
No, that's a really good idea. It's
so now, how do you know? The schools contact you, or
so that's a really good point too. The parents and the guardians usually have to start. This is what I tell kids. So I tell we meet with families. I say at every fall, winter, and spring meeting. If you're interested in playing in the NCAA, let me know soon. Let me know. Freshman, not so important. Sophomore, yep. Junior year, full on. That's when it's really important to make sure you make the contacts. What we tell our student athletes is that you need to make a top 20 list. 10 schools you want to go to, 10 schools that you would go to. And the critical piece, I know I've said this before, every single student athlete in college is one injury away from just being a student, right? So you have to like or really love where you're going. I fell in love with the campus. I had a couple of scholarship offers, but I loved the campus, and I really liked the coach, and I liked the professors. When I did 2 or 3 days of, touring and all that, it fit for me. You have to really like where you are. You can't just tolerate. So, and then they do the top 10, right? The 10 where they want to go, the 10 where they would go. And then we craft an email, because nobody does anything via correspondence, no snail mail. It's all email now. And, one of the tricks of the trade is you don't email just the head coach. Head coaches don't recruit. Yeah. Head coaches seal the deal. They talk to you when it's all over. It's the assistant coaches that do all the recruiting. So what we do is we encourage them to email everybody on the staff that you can find. And you want to say a couple of things. You want to say, I really like your school. I really like your athletic program. You have the major that I want. Here's my times that I've run in track, or here's what I've done in basketball, or here's what I've done in football. Oh, by the way, here's a 2 or 3 minute video. They don't want to look at 10 minutes. They want to see something short, your really best maneuvers, your best actions, your best plays, and then always answer finish the email with a question. What's the next thing I need to do to see if I'm a good fit for your school?
presumptive close.
Thank you, presumptive close, so that they need to reply, or they feel obligated to reply back to you. And that's where we go. That's our secret. I hope nobody in Milford, people outside of Milford, don't watch this. No, I hope they do, because if it helps a kid get in, we're happy to help. But that's what we do. That's our equation.
So now, as a good athlete, well, not the bestest of the best,
Sure,
but a good athlete.
Yep.
How many choices does he or she normally get?
Athletically?
Well, how many schools have said, we'd like you to come, we'll give you a scholarship?
So if you're a league all-star, if you're a Hockomock League all-star, you're probably going to get to play in the NCAA. You're probably going to be D3. If you're upper echelon in that all-star status or the MVP, you're probably looking at a scholarship in D2.
But do you get one school that picks you, 2, 3?
If you're a league all-star, you've probably got 3 or 4
No.
Division III schools, right? If you're in the upper echelon, you're looking at probably 1, 2, maybe 3 D2.
Oh,
If
that's-
you're what we call a stud or a blue chipper, and we've got a couple of those, you hopefully have half a dozen.
Wow.
Yeah, yep, of people that are sort of bartering for your. That's where Coach Dale is really good.
Now, is that
He'll say, "Show me the money."
across
It's Tom
the country,
Cruise.
or is it mainly New England schools? Or
It's a lot of New England schools. I'll be honest. Yes, and you get someone. I'm trying to. What I don't want to do is I don't want to throw names out there and not mention some people and mix it
Yeah.
up. But Kiani Seamus, right? She's ranked top 10 in the country for 2 events in track and field, for the long jump and the 55-meter or the 100-meter dash. She's a blue chipper. She's going to Rutgers, right? It's a good fit for her. Kiani had multiple schools interested in her across the country. Mason Baldick, football player, amazing young man, great young man, academically, athletically, character. And so is Kiani, character. They're all character kids. That's what's awesome about them. He's a great kid, still trying to figure out, we're getting ready to sign, because we're talking big-time schools with him, big time, so he's got multiple places that he's looking at, and the Coach Dale is helping him navigate. And Kiani's process took a little bit longer, too, because she wanted to find the right fit, and she could take her time because her jumps and her sprints are at the level where people,
well, you
people are
mentioned
looking
you
for her
got to make
services.
it through the admissions process, and
Critical.
I know, talking to the coaches at Holy Cross, they said they are at a disadvantage
Yes.
because the dean of
Some are.
admissions didn't cut any slack.
Nope. And they won't. They won't. Like MIT, Yale, Harvard. You're going to Ivy schools, right? You talk any of these places, they don't even want the coach to walk down the hall and say, "I really need this girl.
Yeah.
I need this girl. We could win a national championship if I get this field hockey gal." They don't want to hear that. They don't care.
But,
Some schools will let you give them. I know, like, for example, some D1, D2 schools, the coach gets 5. I need them. If they're close, I need them.
right.
Some
But
schools say you get the double zero, you get nothing. You get nothing.
Some of the guys who became inherited sons, because we got to know them, and when they graduated, like Chris, number 1 inherited son, is complaining that he's only making $97,000 3 years out of college.
3, not 30. 3, right?
3 years.
Not Larry Bird 33 or 30.
No.
3
He was
years.
3, maybe 3.5 years. And
I'm getting old then.
I kept shaking my head saying, you realize you're making more than 80% of the country.
Yeah.
But it was that,
3 years.
yeah.
I like the ambition.
No, there have been 2 or 3 of the athletes that we know,
Yeah.
they busted their backside.
Yep. To make sure they put themselves in a good position, right?
But when they graduated, it wasn't like basket weaving degree of nothing.
No.
They had solid degrees and the discipline they learned being athletes. Because you think about time management.
Oh.
You have no choice if you're going to survive.
No, like you made a really good point. Athletics is a full-time job. Academics is a full-time job. So figure you're working 70, 80, 90 hours a week. You are. There's film that you got to watch at the college level that we do at the high school level, but it's on another.
Well,
there's so many different things.
The
so
other
many
thing,
different
too,
things.
is I've talked to a lot of people, and there's certain sports that, because of Chapter 90, you got to balance.
Yes, yeah, yep,
So football's the worst thing in the world because you got 80 guys,
yep.
and there's no girls' football team. I mean, by worst is for the balance.
Right.
So colleges tend to love girls' field hockey because that fits right.
You can balance the yin and the yang and make. You got 90 over here. Well, you have soccer and field hockey. Now
And a
we're
lot
at
of
40 or
schools
50.
now are doing scholarships for girls' ice hockey.
No, ice hockey's big right now. Very big.
And again,
Golf is big now, too.
that balance does wonders.
Absolutely. It's opened a lot of doors for a lot of people, and I think that's great. I agree with you.
We could go on, but tell me about, we've done pretty well this year with our sports teams.
Yeah, we're excited. We did the fall wrap-up, so I won't go into the
but
fall.
the wrestling, they didn't do
Unbelievable.
too bad, did
No,
they?
they're on a tear, and I wrestled in high school, and I mean, I did a lot of sports, so I know a lot of
Yeah,
sports.
but you never did 3 in a row.
No. But I love to go and watch. I go to every match at home, and I make as many as away as I can, and it's just
But tell our 6 loyal viewers what the wrestling team
back
did.
to back to back, 3 years in a row, Hockomock League champions. That's unheard of. Unheard of. Division II state champions last year, sectional champions last year. We got a couple of kids hurt right now. I'll give a big plug to Cam Phillips. He's a defending D2 195 state champion. Blew out a couple ligaments in his knee in football. Didn't get to wrestle this year. He's not going to get to wrestle. But, the team was awesome. They got shirts. Every kid's shirt says Phillips on the back, 195. Because that's how Milford rolls. That's how PJ Boucher does things. Mark Pinto, great program. They've won 3 in a row. So they have
in the Hockomock League.
Yeah, which is brutal.
Because it's not, I don't want to pick on the Podunk High School League of Northumbria.
Nope, but you're right. If you can win in this league, you can win it. Basically, the way I put it to our kids and our coaches, if you can win the league championship, you are absolutely vying for a state championship. Absolutely, there's no question. Because that's just where this league sits right now. It's so deep and it's so competitive. They're on a tear, They got a lot of kids going into college, a lot of kids that are going to be wrestling in college, and
Yeah, but
it's going to be fun.
I don't want to diminish what they've done with wrestling, but when you say a lot of kids going to college.
To wrestle, yeah, to
But
wrestle.
even not to wrestle.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Oh, a lot of the kids from all of our programs are going to college. We tend to focus, you're right, we tend to focus on the ones that are going to compete because we're at such a amazingly unique, ridiculous ratio of 3 or 4 times the national average. And it was long before I got here. It's always been that way.
But the most important thing to me is you have a high percentage of kids who've learned enough from their coaches, from their programs, that they're going to college.
Well, you brought up a good point about discipline. How can you're talking about, just take wrestling, 6 minutes of combat with another man, sometimes a girl, right, young lady, young man, wrestling, going at it, trying to basically put you through the floor. How can you not be disciplined? You have to practice to be good at that. So we call that the spillover. You've heard the spillover technique or the spillover philosophy where you go all in on this. You can't help but learn to go all in on everything else. People don't half rump it. Student athletes don't half rump stuff for the most part.
You can't just turn it off and say, now I'll be a lazy slug.
It becomes DNA, and we love that. It's great, When I was a principal, I used to one of my questions was, did you play any sports in high school? Did you play any sports in college? And kind of joke around, but I wanted to know. If they were a competitor, that would help me to discern, no, this is a really type A person. They're gonna press. This is gonna be good. So
wrestling did well. Mm-hmm. Swimming didn't do too bad, huh?
Swimming's doing really well. The boys, came right down. The girls are competing, doing a nice job. The boys went right down to the last dual meet. Unfortunately, lost a very close meet to Attleboro. We'll get a chance in a couple of days, Friday, to go up against the whole league, see what we can do. But the swim program, again, culture, discipline, right? They always do well because they teach and they preach, the core values, championship expectations, relentless pursuit of just doing the absolute best that you can, and wearing this with pride. And you wear this when you don't wear this. We always talk about that, too. Even when you don't have something red or white on, you're still wearing it. But they've done well. Cheer is getting ready to tear into the playoffs.
Miss Heather always seems to come through.
She does. She's fantastic. Going to nationals in March.
She always amazed me because she pulled off things with the cheerleading team that when I was coaching soccer, when it got dark, parents wanted to go home.
Yep.
And yet Heather would tell us down at Fino to line up the cars and turn on your lights.
I've heard the story. Yeah.
And it's like, seriously.
How does that not catch on to the kids, though? When we're going to do it till we get it right. We're going to do it until we are at a championship. it just, you have to, it's osmosis, right? It's diffusion. You pick it up in your DNA.
Well, it was amazing because when Emily went and she got invited as a senior to go try out for the Holy Cross cheerleading team, she said, "Dad, compared to what I had in high school, this is nothing."
Not as bad. That's awesome when that happens. It's very rare, but it's awesome. That's good to hear. It does
So
happen.
they're going to nationals.
March, they're going to fly down to Florida, give them 1,000% and see where we land, see what we can do.
Does the
like that.
school help with that, or do they have to raise their own
They're not
money?
allowed to
Oh,
because of the national regulations and whatnot, but they are allowed to fundraise, and the town helps. The town does a great job supporting them, and anybody else who's going to these large meets or large competitions or whatnot. They always make the finish line. They do. That's unusual.
we've always taken care of our kids.
Yeah, it's a good place to be. Overall, the winter we're doing well. Basketball's competing. Both teams have got some good W's, got some good wins, and we've got a mixture of young and veterans. So the future looks bright for both teams. The hockey teams are doing well. The boys ice hockey
But wait a
on a
minute
tear.
now, hockey. Years ago, you had 3 kids that played hockey. I mean,
Double digits now, 10, 12 kids a year, boys. And we have girls. We have girls playing in ice hockey co-ops as well. Got a gymnastics co-op now. They're in first place. They're doing really well. Yep, we got 3 gals on that team. 3 or 4.
I'm really excited to hear that the hockey team, because we were working with Hopedale and
Working with Hopedale, Millis. Millis has dropped. It's primarily Hopedale and Milford right now. Yeah, yep. And it's good. It's a good collaboration. We help out as much as we can. We're not allowed to have a co-op team in the Hockomock League and be the host and stay in the league. You can't run a league schedule. So Hopedale is the host, and we send them a lot of good players and mix it in with their good players.
Now, what do you mean we're not allowed to have?
The Hockomock League doesn't let you have a co-op and play a league schedule.
So you have to be pure town.
You would have
Talent.
to. You'd have to go non-league if they would even let you. Hopedale's been really good about hosting. They have. It's been a blessing because our kids get to play, their kids get to play. Financially, it works. Athletically, it works, and it's just they've been really, really good since the 2 major towns have come together.
Well, I would imagine. I mean, next to football, hockey's got to be one of the most expensive sports.
Yes, the ice time. You don't even want to know. I'm not even sure I would.
No, we had that discussion before where they said hockey's much more expensive. It's like, wait a minute. The Parks Department maintains the field. The town maintains the stadium. So hockey.
That's an intelligent way to look. When you wrap in everything, I'm not sure which one I would go with.
Yeah.
But ice time alone
No, ice
is
time.
crazy. But you are correct. We've got to maintain the entire stadium. Actually, there's a couple of football fields, right, that we use throughout the town and whatnot. So all of that has to be manicured and taken care
Well,
of.
we just kicked $1 million+ last year at the fall town meeting.
Yep. Which we're really excited about. Again, another indicator that this town doesn't just kind of take care of their kids. They really look at the future, which is something I have not seen in any towns that I've lived in or worked in. It's nice because I think this town does it pre-K to 12 and then 1 to 100. You folks have figured out that this is an investment for everybody. That turf, the 2 turfs are used around the clock for teaching phys ed for 3 different schools.
Well, when we first looked at turf field, everybody was talking about how much it would save. And I was one of the ones that laughed. I said, you're not going to save anything. And sure enough, here we are 12 years later putting $1 million. But the difference is, if I remember right, you got 2.5 fields use out of every field.
Exactly, because the typical life is 8 to 10. And this town was able to get it to 12
But
and
even
get it beyond that.
at the end of a rainstorm,
That's it.
it drains away,
Yeah.
give it 20
we
minutes
can
or
play
30
in the
minutes and
rain.
let's go.
We play in the rain.
We
They
couldn't
both
do
drain.
that
Yep.
with a regular field.
Or if you took a gamble and had to get that game in, you'd wreck the field for the rest of the season or, 10, 15, 20 grand to repair it. Nobody wants to do that. So we know that we can send our teams out to, we don't lose practice on rainy days, right? And now, you're not just talking the high school, and I know I'm just saying for the entire community that's watching. it's high school, it's middle school, it's youth that come on after us because this town was wise enough to have lights put in. Huge investment, fantastic, investment. And now, weekends, you drive by and there's kids playing something on both turfs. It's amazing. The phys ed classes are out there all day long, all year round. That's also awesome. You've got your youth, your middle schools, your high schools. You couldn't get a better deal, in my opinion. It's taking care of kids, and we have men's leagues. We have women's leagues that calculate
Well, I
time
was
too.
going to say, don't forget the old people.
Yeah, they're out there. They put in for
You
time.
have softball for adults.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
have flag football for adults.
And everybody gets it's rotated, it's worked out, it's collaborated, where we do our absolute best to make sure that everybody's sharing. It's done pretty well. Yeah, it's a good deal.
So what else is new and exciting in
So we
Milford
did the
High
NCAA
sports?
signings. Boys basketball and unified basketball got to play on the
Now,
same court as the
Unified
Celtics.
went to the Garden?
Yes, sir. Yep.
What's that?
So that was a celebration day. We were very fortunate where Coach Seaver did a really nice job. He puts together this endowment game where we play Winchester. And I'm sad to say that both head coaches, their fathers passed away from ALS. But I'm happy to say that both head coaches worked really hard to put this endowment game together. This year we were able to get it on the TD Garden floor a Saturday morning. But what's really cool is Coach Seaver and he was able to help sort of facilitate us allowing our unified team to play an hour before us. So we invited a couple of teams. Mansfield in the Hockomock League was able to make it work. They traveled in. Our head coaches, our entourage traveled in. Awesome. They played at 8 o'clock in the morning and got on the same floor as the Celtics. And our fans were amazing. Our kids were amazing. Our coaches were amazing. They tied Mansfield. It was an exact tie, which was great. And our boys varsity team had an endowment game, which does count for the power rankings. And we lost to Winchester last year by over 40 points. We beat them by 6 or 7 this year. So, the future is bright. We feel good about that. But it was a great day. It was a great day. I was facilitating wrestling at home, but we had some people there as site managers, Lou Colabello, Lori
Yeah,
Pinto.
but how cool is it for the special needs kids to be
Yes.
in the Garden on the floor?
Our goal is to provide the unified teams as much or exactly the same offerings and sort of participation that we offer the mainstream population. That's what we want. That's why we were so pumped to get a bus, get them in there. Our cheer team took a bus in and just made a day of it. We had 3 teams in there that day. Probably the only school in Massachusetts that had 3 teams. They had games all day long for endowment and fundraising and whatnot. I guarantee we were the only team that had 3 teams go in that day. That's you know better than me. That's Milford. That's what Milford does. It's awesome. I'm a lucky guy. I'm a lucky guy to suit up in red and white every morning. I love it.
So what other sports are going on?
Oh, boy. So, this is an interesting part. So for some of the teams like swim and wrestling, playoffs will start really soon. The hockey teams are still playing out their regular season. The basketball teams are still playing out their regular season. Track and field, we've got some really great individuals. We actually have some teams that have qualified for nationals. Kiani is not the only person. We're happy to say that we've got some people joining her. Our girls 4x200 team has made it. Our boys sprint
Now,
medley.
this is indoor?
Indoor, yep. And those kids practice outdoors every day. We don't have an indoor facility yet. I stress yet. I'm hoping for a field house. I'm hoping. But the
Well,
indoor
that's
track.
one of the things that, as we've had these discussions about renovating Milford High, I mean, you hear people talk about we should build a new school. And then you bring up, well, the swimming pool. SBA, the School Building Administration, won't pay $1.
They will not pay.
And I think
That's
we're
my
recognized
understanding.
as having one of the better facilities around.
No, people in the league and around the state. The MIA calls every season. Will you host soccer? Will you host football? Will you host field hockey? Will you host basketball? Will you host volleyball? Because, and I'm proud to say this, we have a great event staff. We actually, Milford now, we are being asked by other schools and other leagues to come in and explain How do you set up a game? How do you set up a playoff game? How do you set up a regular season game? You never, knock on wood, you never seem to have any issues. Your fans are under control. Your parents are on, everybody gets it. They're cheering and not jeering. So we actually are doing presentations now at a league and a state level where we're,
Well, I'm hoping that, I mean, we're going to pay a ridiculous amount for a new school.
yes, yep,
And when I say new, I mean renovating. You know, we're estimating 150 to 175, which is a lot better than the 3-something. And
it's
people,
not cheap to put up new stuff anymore.
well,
It's not.
but people
real
don't
estate.
even understand that our school is oversized for the model that the SBA accepts. There's more square foot per
Oh,
student.
right, yes.
So if we were to go into nowhere that we have land that's convenient, if we went into a brand new lot,
Right,
flat,
right,
to
with
build
that
the
type of
school
square
up.
footage. Yep,
they turn around and say, okay, now you're going to shrink the square footage to this model.
Mhm.
Can you afford to have a pool? Well, if you can, you're going to pay for it yourself.
right, you'd have
There's
to
a
attach.
lot going into,
It's a complicated process, I know that.
and I don't know that we'll get any money for a field house, but I'm certainly hoping that, you know, when you're talking 175 million or 170, it's such a ridiculous number that 175 and putting a proper field house.
Agreed. Because
Yeah.
it does a lot of things. Again, I'll take a couple seconds if you don't mind. You get a field house, you got 2 or 3 floors. That could be volleyball. That could be basketball. That could be wrestling. You get a 160, 200 meter, I get it. We're not going to do that. Nobody does that. No high schools do. 160, though, a meter track around that. Now you've got a different fitness situation. You can rent that out, or you can use that. You can make some money back because Hopkinton sure does. Shrewsbury sure does. That is utilized. You can have multiple different things. But the most important thing for me, I think, is we can get our high schoolers in earlier. We don't have to have them going 5 to 7, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 9, right? You can get them all in after school. Then what do? Then we bring in our youth in the indoor season, which is really difficult right now. The town makes it work. We all make it work. But then if you want, you can have adult programs much earlier in the evening, and you can have a better offering of adult programs because you have that field house. Taunton does it. They have a field house. I think they're the only one. KP kind of has a field house.
Shrewsbury.
Shrewsbury.
You walk into Shrewsbury, and it's wow. It shows the kind of investment.
That's their investment into their future and their current, right? Their ages 1 to 100. You know, I'm hoping we make that decision.
I sure hope we can. do
That's a
that.
50, 60 year investment, right? Because
Hmm.
Milford knows how to take care of things, and that's how long this high school has made it. The footprint.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, the bunker is still solid.
Correct.
You
Correct.
know, if you really looked
It's
at,
funny, it is.
it is a bunker.
It is. That's what the kids still call it. We still call it that. The coaches, we still call it that.
You know, and you say, okay, we're going to renovate. I mean, back in '74 when we were the first class in, they had a rotary phone in every class.
Yeah.
And
That
what
was
you-
cutting edge, right?
It was amazing that you could call somebody in a different classroom.
Yes. Yep.
But again, it just showed that was 1974. And that it's still there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, nobody uses rotary phones anymore.
no.
but,
Good call. Good point.
You know,
But that was cutting edge then. I think one of the things I've learned, because I've seen 2 schools built or renovated in my 30 years in education, you have to project out into the future. You just have to look forward 10, 15, 20 years. And it's like technology. When I buy technology, I try to buy the absolute best because in 6 months it's not obsolete, but it's behind.
Right.
Right? And you're going to try to keep it for 2 or 3 years. You got your phone and, so I think you really need to project, and you plural, we need to
Well, we
project
ran
forward.
into that one night when we walked into the C wing at the high school, the science wing.
Mhm.
And you walk in, you're like, wow, this is just like when I was here.
Exactly. Bingo.
And, we brought up to the administration saying, why? And it's like, well, to upgrade the science equipment, you never have enough money.
Yeah.
So
Science is expensive.
made a deal where we said, look, we're running surpluses every year. Let's take $250,000 when we can afford it,
Yep, and
put it
upgrade.
aside. And sure enough, they upgraded all the equipment. The only agreement we had is nothing permanent.
Right.
Don't
right.
invest in tables that are bolted to the floor.
Yeah,
Because
good
when we
point.
do
Nope,
the
I see
new
where
high
you're going.
school, we don't want to lose this stuff.
Yep, I see where you're going with that. That's a good idea. It's a great idea.
And, we got lucky for a couple, 2-3 years in a row. We had good surpluses, siphoned off a
Yeah.
little bit of the money. And then we
And
went
upgraded.
through and it was $500,000 investment in the science program.
No, it's a great way. It's a great way to operate. It's a good way to look forward and just invest in in really the present and the future, right? I mean, that's really what that is.
How do parents who don't know what goes on at the high school get a glimpse as to what?
What we're doing.
Yeah, because I remember I was coaching a young lady, and when her father showed up, she was a different girl.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was, but there was a little extra kick in her step, a little extra smile, and the father really showed up. So I was bad. I went up and I said, "You must be really rich." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said,
Oh, no.
"You're giving up $150,000." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Your daughter could get a scholarship and
Yeah,
go to
she-
college for free. But the only way she's going to do it is if you're here. I see the
Yeah,
difference."
She plays better. Yes. Yep.
He never missed a game after
Yeah,
that.
there you go. You know what? And some people just need to hear it verbally. Some people know it intrinsically. It's good that you said something.
But, I wonder how many kids whose parents, like my dad, never knew what was going on at the high school.
Mm-hmm.
I always joke around saying somebody would tell him, "You have to go down to the high school next Tuesday to support your son."
Yeah. Good game, big game, something
Didn't
like
matter. He put on his coat, put on his little hat, showed up
Showed
into
up.
the auditorium, had no clue as to what was going
that.
on.
Yeah. Yep.
But he and my mother were there because they had to be there to support me.
Yep. Yep.
But I wonder, how do we get that message out?
That's a good question. I think no matter what generation you're in, it's a challenge. However, with the digital and social media and whatnot, we're all over Twitter. I think we do a great job in Twitter. We actually, are asked to explain that to other schools too. But we try to be on social media. We try to be on Twitter. We try to be on Instagram, which most of the kids are on. We have a lot of parents who follow us on Twitter. You can get on our website and take a peek at what we're doing. Our principal, our superintendent send home emails here and there to explain this is where you find stuff, or hey, this is a big game coming up. It's I think if you want to be in the know, you can be in the know.
good.
More so than 5 years ago, way more so than 10 years ago.
Well, I'm seeing things go out in English, Portuguese, and Spanish.
Yes, that's a big emphasis for us right now. We are trying to translate every message that goes out. We want everybody to be able to process the information in whichever language that they are most comfortable with. That's been a really important from our central admin to all of the schools, all the administration, and it's been a focal point for us.
That's good news.
Yeah, we're trying.
Because especially if you can get it out in there. I mean, my dad came to Milford. He had 4 years of school because that's what you got when you lived in the mountains in Portugal.
Yes.
And then you had to go out and earn. So he had no idea.
This is all. Yeah, it's a different
Different
completely
world.
different setup. Yeah. Yep.
But, if somebody told him that you have to do this to help your son, boy, he was right on it.
That was it. He just needed that verbal cue from somebody. No, that's a good point. No.
I still remember the picture of him with a blanket sleeping in the bleachers at the hockey rink because somebody had to drive us at 3 a.m.
Oh yes. Oh my gosh.
We couldn't get ice time otherwise.
Any other time. Yeah. Yep. Pools and hockey rinks are like that. Yep. True. Too true. It still happens today. We're very fortunate that we have the pool that we have. We get.
It's a statement. If you're swimming for Milford and people are admiring the facility, it's got to make you feel a little better that the town has invested that much into it.
100%. And talk about forward thinking. The spectator capability that we have at our high school. Now, I had 2 children that swam, in Milford Youth, right, Stingrays. We traveled everywhere for years, and nobody, not one high school facility had the spectator capability that we have. Last year, I'll give you a quick check-in. The state got in a jam with COVID. The colleges did not want us, not Milford.
They didn't want anybody.
They didn't want anybody. They didn't want any high schools. Who do you think they called to host a state swim meet, swim and dive meet? Right here.
Well,
they called us. They
when
called your
we were
hometown.
traveling around with the swim team, some of the places we went, you had to alternate.
Yes. Yes.
There wasn't enough room.
Exactly.
So
Hey, my kids swim in the 200. Oh, I'll get out. You can come in.
Exactly.
You don't do that in Milford. There's plenty. We host the league championship. Last year they hosted the sectional championship because the state called up. Coach Chappie and his crew, they got it covered. It's awesome.
Coach Chappie, it seems like he's part of the pool.
He's a big reason the culture is what it is. He is. He's done a great job. He is part of the pool. I think he lives there. I do. Even retired, I think he spends more time now. He's always doing something in the pool.
Think about it, when we were there was Coach Chappie.
Mm-hmm.
100 years later, there's still Coach
Still
Chappie.
Coach Chappie. Yeah. It's kind of comforting.
But that says something about the dedication of
Passion,
the people.
commitment. And
It's like you think of the food service and you think of Carla.
yes. Yep.
Nobody would ever question the quality of the food if you
Nope.
said Carla made it.
Yep.
You just
No,
not even a
our
question.
kids are very fortunate. Like I said, I've been in 2 other high schools and eaten the food. We are so fortunate. That's just another perk of how Milford rolls. Just she takes,
But
she
it's the
takes that
physical
professional.
food, it's the spiritual food, it's the intellectual food, it's all the pieces
Yeah,
that are
it's
fed to
critical.
Milford kids that gets them that extra step.
It puts everything together. Building blocks, right? It's critical. It's important. We're lucky here. We're fortunate.
We are. And I mean, it all starts with town meeting. Because you think about it, we can't get a penny spent without town meeting approval.
Absolutely. It's the masses. It's everybody just having that culture, right? Those expectations that we are going to do the absolute best for our
And you
kids.
think about it, I've
1
never
to 100.
seen town meeting turn down what's right for the kids.
No, you mentioned that. Yeah, no. And in 10 years, I really haven't seen, I always say to my fellow ADs in the Hockomock League, I say, listen, I'm just telling you, been at this a decade or 5 years or 8 years or however long. 2 things. If it's important for kids and you can convince people that it's really helpful to kids, they will build it or they will fund it. And how do you guys do that? Listen, if you don't have it, you're not going to get it. This town had it before I got here. They still have it, and I'm just thrilled that this town has
Well,
it.
it was like years ago, one of the neighboring towns was debating whether they were going to keep their library accredited and open.
Oh, my gosh.
At the
right?
same time, we were having a knockdown, drag-out fight about, is it $1.2 million or $1.4 million we're going to invest in expanding the library?
Yep.
But it just put it in perspective.
There's
to say,
it's perspectives, it's optics, it's the vision, and there's the difference, right? That just encapsulates everything. We can't do this. How are we going to do it?
right.
Just the difference. It's just the
But you're
difference.
right. Once the town meeting makes up their mind that this is right for our kids, we're going to do it.
Just
Happens.
finding a way.
We
It's just
find a way.
blazing a path. It's awesome. I love it.
Well, like always, there's jewels in Milford. Our athletic program is one of the shining stars, not just because we do well in the Hockomock League. I'm proud of that. But the kids do well in life. They walk out of Milford High sports with skills that they can translate into success at college and in vocational trades and everything else. So if your child is not involved in sports and you're interested, come talk to our AD. I'm sure you'll get a receptive ear.
Encourage him. We'd love to see him.
And as always, may God bless to our 6 loyal viewers. Thanks for joining us. May tomorrow be a better night than tonight. Good night, all.
Not too long since I've been home. Been running on my life just